Oh, shit. I closed the tab.
But,
all right, I'll have that fixed in a second. There we go.
And we're going live.
You're listening to the Psychic Coffee Shop Podcast Network.
Good evening and welcome to the Psychic Coffee Shop. I'm Aeson Knight, and of course with me is Techy Joe. How are you, darlings?
I'm here.
Yeah, we're just going to pour you into a cup.
Do what now?
Should just pour you into a cup.
Basically.
Yeah, it's been that type of week. Hi, Brenda. Hi, Shannon.
Hello,
baristas.
Pardon?
Hello, baristas.
Yeah, I'm running a little slow. It's been a long day.
Hi, Kathy. Hi, Rachel. So it's an interesting news beat. Let's start with probably some of the more local and work our way out. What is going on with 460 and why were you late getting home?
So for those of you who don't get super local news, and let's explain what 460 is. It is a long stretch of road that interconnects Virginia and West Virginia. That is very, very useful in the fact that it is one of the most direct routes from, it's a 2-lane or 4-lane in some areas highway that goes through a lot of the smaller parts of West Virginia and Virginia in the mountainous area. So there was a little mudslide. We've had this thing called rain and snow, causing a mudslide that actually shut down part of this road.
Mm-hmm.
So that had been in the news. I had kind of seen it, didn't really catch where exactly the issue was. We have this problem with 460. We blew up, parts of mountains to just drop a road in.
Standard West Virginia practice.
Standard West Virginia practice. But this is a road with a few decades on it. So we have a lot of issues with collapsing like mountain / hillside, as well as a lot of issues with, erosion and problems like that. Communities off of 460 also have this as a generalized problem.
But we're seeing this not only throughout the state, but throughout the country. We're seeing mudslides. We're seeing road construction has just gone terrible. Let us not forget the coal expressway to the future.
Oh, yeah.
Exit 54 goes nowhere.
Well, King Coal Highway, and that is a lovely part of Mercer County. There's an on-ramp for it. That was built, 20 years ago. In anticipation, we kept getting told we're going to get the money, we're going to get the money, we're going to get the money. And I think even, what was it, last year before? They were talking again all big about we're going to build the road out, we're going to build the road out, we're going to build the road out. And it's like at this point, I think they're going to have to redo everything related to it.
Hi, Jessica. Yeah, they're going to have to redo everything to it because there's like grass growing up over the road. The overpass is now a wildlife passer.
Yeah, basically, it's an interesting little like on ramp. Let me tell you at this point. It's kind of it's almost become a little bit of a joke. And the reason that road is supposed to exist is to help interconnect. I believe it is McDowell and Wyoming County, basically southbound towards 77. So that you can literally exit Ohio, go down this road, and hit 77 directly.
Right.
Which would potentially bring a lot of at least travel-based business through those two counties. It would additionally give those two counties a much, much, much needed better connection than what they have.
Right.
Oh, it's a beautiful place to take post-apocalyptic photos. Like at this point, what is the movie? Is it I Am Legend? The one with Will Smith, and it's post-apocalyptic, like there was a zombie apocalypse and he's running through New York and, hunting deer and all this. I think it's I Am Legend. But anyway, yeah, it basically looks like the set of that movie at this on-ramp, because it just didn't go well. It's been a horrible project.
Well, it's a managed project, left, right, and center. Of course, our lovely dum-dums down in Charleston continue to ignore it. They're too busy trying to restrict teachers' rights.
Well, now part of this is also a federal issue, because federal highways programs typically kicks in a shit ton, percentage-wise, of the cost of building a road. What basically keeps happening with King Coal Highway is no one really wants to build this road.
Right.
At the federal level, it's kind of like, and, we understand why you want to build it. We don't understand why we want to build it.
Well, here's the hard fact. The state of West Virginia has $250 billion in the bank sitting there for a rainy day. Fueling infrastructure seems to be a rainy day project.
It is, or could be, a lot of what happens with communities and states in general. Is they still don't want to spend their money on road projects. Mostly because if it's not going to be picked up, if the federal government's not going to pick up the tab, why build it? Right. We also have an infrastructure question as to the long-term effect and viability of stimulating local economies through road building.
We have a question on infrastructure completely. I mean, we've got bridges in Charleston within the last year that has become unsafe to travel on. We've got holes and potholes all the way around. I want to know where my freaking Easy Pass money goes to, or the money for my property taxes that's supposed to go to maintaining the state road. Jim Justice, are you not paying your bills?
Well, actually, Jim Justice kind of screwed the pooch with the Easy Pass 3-year plan. Thinking it would create a lot of revenue. Unfortunately, it was apparently a horrible miscalculation. And then COVID-19 has not helped.
We all know he failed kindergarten math. He's still trying to figure out what the numbers are. We've seen that in his briefings.
Well, yes, and one of his newest plans, speaking of money, just real quick, is to eliminate state income tax.
Yeah, that's insane. And take a bill off of what he doesn't have, what he doesn't pay.
Yeah, really. But no, it's and we've talked about it a little bit on the show, is to replace that with a 1.5% increase in sales tax when we are literally completely surrounded by states with lower sales tax. And we've already had a border problem. With people crossing out of West Virginia into surrounding states to take advantage of like tax-free holidays or the lower sales tax in general. So
yeah, coolers and bags, baby. We will go shopping elsewhere.
Yeah, like our governor's really bad at math. This is what this breaks down to.
Well, we saw that in the corona numbers too, and his acts in the corona system. Granted, West Virginia is currently number 1 on vaccinations in the state, in the country. Don't let him tout that. That isn't his success. Every one of those deaths is because of him. He didn't lock us down. He didn't put in strong mandates. Ohio's governor stepped up. Kentucky's governor stepped up. Ohio prosecuted and is continuing to issue tickets for morons that can't wear a mask.
Right. And Governor Justice has bumped us back up to 75% capacity for businesses. Again, not seeming to catch that, like, we're still, and as well as sending, they're working very hard right now to send school kids back 4 to 5 days a week.
Yeah.
Still, again, not really getting this isn't over just because we have a vaccine. One, we've kind of forgotten teachers in this entirely.
Well, yeah.
Like, we're not getting this concept that, you know, before we send them back, we really need to vaccinate our teachers. You know, like,
and our housekeepers, and our janitors, and our cook staff, and our bus staff, and, you know, our homeschool mom, our home moms, homeroom moms, everybody in that system that has anything to do with that system needs to be vaccinated.
Yeah, and especially if they're going to be in contact with a large variety of students.
If they're going to be in contact with more than 5, they need to be vaccinated.
Absolutely. So we've totally forgotten that part. Like, we remembered the nurses, we remembered, you know, doctors and medical staff. We've remembered a lot of the people that do have, like, divergent, you know, connection to people. So they're at the highest risk, but they're also at the highest risk of spreading and creating a bigger event.
Right. And they're not talking a dang bit about essential workers. They're not talking a damn bit about, you know, people that have compromised immune systems that have been in their house for over a year now. Oh, we'll get to them. We'll get to them. We got to get these 85-year-olds. We've got to get these 75-year-olds. Yes, you do, but you need to get the rest of us too.
Well, and I know that is a priority. We do have a problem with one, after this past week of transportation of vaccinations, but we also additionally have a problem with production levels.
Right,
it's creating a lot of problems.
Right.
So yeah, it's a wild world right now. There's a lot going on. And a lot of it's interconnected, or there are interconnecting ideas to some of this. And it's like, where's your plan for teachers? Oh, you don't have one. Okay.
Right.
We're gonna screw with sales tax. Where's your plan for that? Oh, you have one based on math. We've seen how well you've done with math.
Right. Your numbers suck.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, you know, we're going to take Jessica's question here in a minute. But we've got some other subjects that tie into this here in a minute, and a couple of them we don't agree with. All right, go ahead and read Jessica's question.
All right, so, okay, Jessica, June 14th, 1989. I have a question regarding my situation with William. Is he putting his foot down with this other woman between us? She is Virgo, when you can get to it.
Okay.
We're getting to it.
I feel that he is, but I think it will have repercussions. And what I mean by that is he's going to start feeling a little trapped, so you're going to have to let him do it at his natural pace. Point blank.
Alrighty.
Alrighty. Okay, so moving on in other West Virginia news, and this is actually being debated not only in West Virginia but in multiple places, is the health departments are looking at going back under having a power over top of them. That's an elected power. Because remember, health departments aren't elected officials. They're just appointed. Some for a term, some for life, some until they get tired of doing the job. So you take that, darling.
All right, and part of this debate also concerns the reason that happens, which typically with appointees, what we are working with is the general idea that if you're an appointed representative, such as a local board of health, you are not necessarily subject to the same political concerns that you would have as an elected official, meaning that you can make decisions independent of the idea of your odds for reelection. That you are more likely to handle your role in such a way that you're only focusing on the issue, not the optics of that issue or the public thoughts, feelings, and opinions on that issue. What we didn't see with COVID was that necessarily play out appropriately.
But
I mean, we didn't.
No, we've not seen them do jack of what they were designed to do.
Yeah.
No businesses were shut down by the health department in the state of West Virginia. No churches that refused to follow orders were shut down. They had no backbone on mass mandates, nothing else.
Well, and then what is mostly prompting this, my take on this, are the other situations that the local county boards of health have effectively found themselves getting involved in and making policy around, that has basically blown up politically. That are they're not necessarily critical health decisions, i.e. taking a role, a more active, aggressive role in COVID, but has more to do with the things that they're doing health wise locally, that are effectively unpopular, are effective, the things that are effectively, for instance, like vice issues, such as limiting indoor smoking and removing like all of or adding on all of these additional requirements for, say, communities that are shared living spaces.
Right.
So if you're in an apartment, you can't do this. If you drive a car, you can't have kids in the back seat, while you're smoking. All these things.
Right.
That's the kind of how county health has ultimately been going. Not kind of the 80s AIDS crisis, we're going to shut down bathhouses, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Very unpopular, made a lot of people angry, not the kind of things that people wanted, but ultimately were beneficial in helping to at least curb a little of the, by removing, venues for anonymous sex, some of the spread of HIV and AIDS. Again, highly unpopular. Lots of people hated it, but it helped. Yes, bathhouses. We're getting a question on that one. So to explain, basically typically a gender, like a single gender space, though it can be co-ed, that is effectively, historically was literally what it sounds like. It was a communal space for an entire community to go and bathe. Typically also had like steam rooms, saunas, etc. You flash forward a few decades, and those became more recreational spa-like spaces, or at
Mm-hmm.
least that was the idea. Typically also had a pool. And by the time you get into the 80s, they were more popular with gay men, and they were like co-opted as anonymous sex spaces,
All right.
because it was convenient. It's typically like being if you think back to like 1970s and prior, like swim classes at the YMCA, you're kind of on the right track, in which, if everyone's the same gender, then who needs a bathing suit?
Right.
That's typically how those spaces operated. Nudity was acceptable, or near nudity was acceptable in terms of a towel. And it wasn't a heavily monitored space. So as long as no one's complaining.
Yeah, but here's the other part of that. They've continued to restrict who you can rent to, what's your rental. They've gone into the vices. They've gone away from medical. They keep putting their opinions in. They have had no backbone at all. The only one that had a backbone was director of health, who said, "No, I'm not fluffing your numbers for you, Jim. You're an idiot."
She got fired.
And she got fired.
Well, and see, that's some of the issue that I think people are having with this, and why they are opposed to the idea of our local county boards of health now having, oversight by county government. Is this going to create at the local level the situation we had at the state level with the state?
Well, they need consequences. And here's the point blank. If they aren't going to do their job, they need to be replaced. They need to go through an election process like everything else in this country. When we have organizations that are not elected officials that have to answer to the people, they get into tyranny. And that's what this has been. Telling us we can't smoke where we want, do what we want, taking this right away and that right away, and this is new and that is new, but they're not in the schools teaching students health. They're not in the schools doing anything, and then turning people away for services, and then not even showing up. Like, oh yeah, they're having this big event. It's been reported to me. Oh no, it's a church. I'm not going to touch it.
Right. Well, but then but that also kind of gets into the counter argument. Like, this is what you would expect to have happen if we had oversight. Like, if that had already been in place. If the county commissioners are sitting there, so to speak, pulling the strings, in terms of policy, in terms of enforcement, in terms of like what this county board of health can do, this is what we would have expected to happen. Is, okay, no one wants to wear a mask. Mask mandates are bad. It's really bad optics. It's whatever. This is kind of what we thought would have happened if that oversight was there, and they were beholden to county commissioners. And those county commissioners, because of their, political, affiliations, and the fact that this is a very red state, would basically, kind of vote their constituents, or at least policy their constituents, and their thoughts, feelings, and opinions, in perspective of their odds of being reelected if they get behind, say, a county ordinance that requires, a mask mandate, or is a mask mandate, or is a something like a shutdown of businesses, a shutdown of bars and restaurants, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is literally what we would have expected to happen if that had already been in place. Because you would effectively have them in the county commissioners in control of public health policy. And then depending upon the depths of that bill, could potentially mean that if you're, a troublemaking county board of health member, you could be jerked out of your office, like Kathy Slimp was. Dr. Kathy Slimp. Because I never want to, I'm all for the women need to include the doctor, but that's a thing. Quit undegreeing people. I'm trying to get it through my head. But yeah. So the Dr. Slimp situation is effectively what happens when you have a state board of health that is ultimately controlled by politicians.
Right, namely the governor.
Exactly.
She doesn't report to the legislator. She doesn't report to our representatives. She reported to the governor. That's the problem.
Right. And
no. They have to report to a county commission, which is at least 3.
Right. But when you're talking about a state that votes heavily Republican, typically what ends up happening ballot-wise and election outcome-wise is you get 3 Republican commissioners throughout most of this state.
Right. Who push their
3 will run as Republican. 3 may run if they can find a third or a second under Democrat Party. And then typically what's going to happen is you're going to end up with at least 3 Republicans, maybe 2 and 1, in terms of Republican to Democrat ratio. Unfortunately, it comes down to you have a 2 against 1 majority at least, politically speaking. And then you have to hope that you have politicians good enough to make intelligent decisions in terms of policy related to public health that may not at all be their forte.
We have the same problem on the public health boards. Aren't elected. We have seen time and time again these public health boards do nothing to help with COVID, do nothing to help with sex ed, STD ed. I mean, Charleston's now got a HIV run, which we'll talk about on Friday. But they keep pushing their personal agendas, pushing the things that benefit them. They need to report to the people somewhere in this boat. Either make them elected officials. That yes, you have to be a medical qualifying person to run, but make them run or make them report to a body of government.
At least in terms of accountability and what this is based on.
Right.
Most definitely. And I'm there for that. I don't know that total oversight. That's where I kind of go, I think that's the bridge too far. And that concerns me at an individual county government level. Because of what could literally happen there. What happens if you have an entire county commission that is, say, anti-vax? Not just on COVID, but anti-vax in general. What happens when that local county board of health is asking for funding, etc., and, for vaccinations, and that county board of health or that county commissioner group says no?
Well, what happens now? We've got a board of health in Fairmont, county board of health. We had a church hold a service, and they have done nothing. Exactly. Except hold funerals 2 weeks later.
Right. And I totally get the outrage at the situation. I don't know that gets better. Like, I guess that's where my argument is I don't think this gets better with that oversight. Like, this is one time I don't think oversight's going to fix it and could potentially make this worse. Like, right now we're frustrated with Fairmont. That's a unilateral.
Well, that's one of them.
Right. I'm frustrated with that. That was really poor and really bad, and a very clear and obvious example when local board of health needed to step in and go, no, we're shutting your asses down. What I worry about is that was within, just the religious communities continuing to hold services. Whereas what happens if that county commission is entirely, COVID denier, completely like COVID denier, and this had been in place, and you had a county board of health that was trying to do the work, mask mandates, changes to...
They're not enforcing anything.
No.
The point is they've become nothing but a pitching group.
Well, and I get that, but I'm saying from the reverse, if they had been trying to do all the right things, we could have ended up with the same outcome. As in, the county commissioner board made the decision, if this were in place, and that county commission board then in turn becomes the one that says, no, you're not doing that. Like, you're not shutting down our churches, you're not shutting down this, COVID's a fucking hoax, blah, 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 blah. If that's where that county commission had gone, then potentially that's what, that board of health would have had its hands bound. And been like, we're trying to do the work, our county commission doesn't let us. So that's when
boards doing crap and doing vice patrol, which isn't their job.
Right.
And we've got some counties that are Nazis. I mean, it's a Nazi county if you're a smoker. You can't smoke here. You can't do this. You can't rent the property. You can't smoke here. You can't do that. It becomes a little Russia.
And I understand that. My argument, my ultimate argument is oversight, at least as far as this bill is concerned, I don't think is the right answer. I think the right answer is somewhere in the middle, in which we have county boards of health that must be accountable and have, good reasoning and a compelling interest for the decisions that they make. But we also don't necessarily need that to be totally adjudicated by the local county commissioners. Like, that's where my problem comes in, is I would almost like an intermediary that is like a state-based agency.
Like state board of health?
Ultimately, yes. I would like to see it take a more active role in working through these situations and holding local county boards of health accountable for the decisions that they make and why they are or are not actively engaging in a situation such as COVID, or why they are or are not engaging in, say, vice patrol, and having to, defend those decisions to a board of health or to the state board of health that can then go, no, or yeah, one way or the other as to whether those actions or inactions are appropriate, and whether or not, sort of like we have in West Virginia for, say, the funeral industry. We have that for the different funeral homes. There is a licensing body, and it does have power to shut down a improperly operating funeral home, which we've seen happen. We've also seen bad versions of that. We've seen that body blow up and basically become a bit of a joke, to be honest. This is sometimes where I have problems with public policy.
See, this is where I have problems, is none of these are elected officials.
Right.
Okay, they need to all be elected officials. They should have to run a campaign. They should have to answer to the voters.
Mhm.
They don't need to be appointees. We can have an election. There's an election every year, point blank, because public health should be an elected thing. It is everywhere else. When you vote for a president, you also have to look at his health secretary. Who is he putting up there?
Absolutely. I mean, I can certainly understand.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I don't know that either, like, to be honest, I don't know that either of us have the right answer. I think it's more complicated than the state of West Virginia is currently trying to make it.
I think it's complicated because of people needing to be terminated.
Most definitely. But then I still worry about who is the replacement going to be, and is this going to get better, or are we going to move the needle in the right direction, or are we just going to turn this into a popularity like situation?
Well, we have county health departments, county health boards may have one or two medical professionals on there. That's ridiculous.
Right. I do believe it should be an entirely medical based and not just like the, so to speak, screwball medical. Like, sorry, I'm just going to put it out there, but like screwball medical being in terms of, oh, you're a chiropractor. Not that I have anything against chiropractors, but we've seen this throughout the COVID situation. A lot of people are jumping out of their lane.
Right.
It's like chiropractors are a wonderful thing. I have great respect and admiration for chiropractors. Please adjust me. But as for those who jump into more nuanced health debate, and especially who are not necessarily like using the best of scientific method to come to their conclusions. They're more so just kind of, riding a wave through their typically for chiropractors, their holistic community, which in some instance, which we saw a lot of in COVID, started backing this, COVID's not real, or it's not that bad, and, you don't need a vaccination for it, and, that, the masks weren't going to help, and this wasn't going to help. We saw a lot of chiropractors and a good chunk of the holistic community jump on that bandwagon.
Right.
Ride it hard.
Yeah. And they should be in jail.
Yeah.
Point blank, should be in jail.
That I can totally agree with. But that's where I'm saying is that sometimes in those boards of health, those are also the doctors that you see. They are medical to an extent. What I would prefer to see is an actual licensed physician.
Right.
And
that hasn't bought their way into the position like our current
state
board of health member.
Yeah, Dr. Slimp's replacement. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Amazing what a fireworks display can get you.
Exactly. That was probably one of the biggest COVID spreaders in Raleigh County. All right, so we have a question. Let's take that on before we move on to our next thing.
All right, let me get back there. Okay. Oh, there we go. So Kathy 72862. I've been seriously confused as to getting back to being positive every day. So also, as you said, I need to deal with. Oh wait, am I on the right one?
Yeah.
Okay. Deal with the tire issue plus a new fuel pump. So do you see? Oh, there we go. So do you see me getting a handle on my emotions soon? As a side question, is Tiz coming in soon, or did this set that back again?
Take a look here. And then I'm going to talk about this constant everyday positivity. I
Okay.
think this is coming back. That this hasn't set that back. Yes, you are dealing with grief. You're not going to be positive every day. Guess what? Nobody is. There are days that I'm Mr. Negativity and everything sucks and just sucks. And that's okay. The point there is understanding your emotions, processing them, and going through that movement.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty. And, Kathy makes a good point. So, how do you force the state or federal to fix the bridges and potholes before a big death situation like happened here in Minneapolis? That's kind of going back a couple of minutes.
Mm-hmm.
That's a legitimate concern. And it's one that is starting to affect a lot of not just our state, but a lot of states.
Mm-hmm.
As she, brings up Minnesota. And this is a long-term ongoing issue with our crumbling infrastructure in the U.S. And the fact is, I don't think anyone knows how you force this to happen.
Right.
Like, how do you force this to get fixed before it starts costing lives? And the answer to that is we kind of we built infrastructure, and not just roads and bridges, but everything from water systems to sewer systems, you name it.
Mm-hmm.
We built that over like the last 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're effectively seeing is many of these systems were only built for like 50 years of service. At 100 years old, unsurprisingly, like to anyone who has a 50-year-old furnace, for instance, it would be unsurprising to find out that your furnace is killing you. Because typically the lifespan on that is 30 years. Typically, they tell you about year 25, you want to be checking it regularly and ready to replace it at any moment.
Right. Well,
so, yeah. But many homeowners,
mm-hmm.
as long as the gas stays on,
mm-hmm.
as long as, it's producing heat,
mm-hmm.
there are homeowners that will just keep running this furnace. They will not have it inspected. They will not do it until one day their house blows up or they die from, say, carbon monoxide poisoning, because the biggest problem you have with a 30-year-old furnace, let alone a 50-year-old furnace or older, is the heat exchanger can crack. And once that occurs, you start getting inefficient heating and a high level of carbon monoxide produced with the burning of fossil fuels.
Mm-hmm.
Hence the reason you really want to be looking at this furnace starting at year 25, if not sooner. Mm-hmm. Like, in general, you want to be looking at that furnace. But for a lot of homeowners, it's kind of like, but where's that money come from? I don't know what a cracked heat exchanger looks like. I'm not going to be able to tell this. You have to hire a professional to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But those professionals come at a cost. And there's a lot of the U.S. that, much like our states, don't have the money for this shit.
Like, well, they have the money. They just need to, like, I don't know, cut salaries, starting with, like, senators.
Hmm?
Cut retirement plans, starting with senators and presidents. Cut traveling budgets, starting with presidents. $1 million to a road construction plan that's cut the BS out of can do a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. But it's an ugly situation, like, throughout the country.
And the way to deal with it is to harass the hell out of every representative. Let them wake up every morning to your tweet, your email, your voice message, and your phone call.
Right. But again, the problem we face is that works for major areas. Like, if you're talking about a major road through a major area that services a lot of people, this works beautifully. But we've also covered the story of the one family that got stranded because a department truck drove across their bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone went, sucks to be you.
Mm-hmm. When it should have been, what's your insurance company's name?
Mm-hmm. Oh, most definitely.
Or like us, we've been abandoned with this road to the future that drives buses past our house at 6:45 in the morning, faster than the speed limit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, and the fallout of that project.
Yes.
And what literally feels like the road no one wanted to touch.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately has become the road that no one has responsibility for.
Mm-hmm.
Or for any of the issues that this project generated. And this is a personal one for us.
Mm-hmm.
No one wants the accountability for it.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone turns and points and says, no, it's their fault. No, it's their fault. No, it's their fault. No, it's their fault.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, as homeowners, we're just like, would you just fix what you broke?
Yeah.
Fix what you broke. Like, what I said in the beginning of this project is there's no point in getting mad and thinking we're ever going to stop a road project. Like, once that gathers momentum and it is at a planned stage and there is money behind it, you ain't stopping a road project. Like, that's like the best you're going to do is if you have large pockets, you're going to get an attorney to waste a bunch of time arguing about it for a few years at best. It's still going to happen. At best, if you don't have large pockets, but you can at least afford an attorney, you might get them, if they're taking your property, if they're doing, etc., to up the amount of money to make you shut up and go away. But you're still not stopping that project. Right. Don't matter if it's going through a cemetery, the middle of your dining room, whatever. It's gonna happen.
Right. They'll but make you can bitch and moan and groan and aggravate them. And come election years, be at every debate, bring it up their failure, continue to pay attention. And then you might get results.
Yeah, or at least bring it forward for the future and make someone rethink what they're doing. But no, ultimately, what we have is a nationwide problem with infrastructure. Everything from water and gas and sewer to roads and even things like internet.
And electric grids.
And electric grids and phone grids and cell phone grids and you name it, we're having a problem.
Right. And the problem is that we've let government be their own employer and do their own stuff. Just like poor little Ted Cruz had to come back from Mexico to do his job. And his wife is upset.
Well, yes. And if you haven't heard that story yet, I don't know what rock you've been under, so we're not really going to recap much.
Go back and watch Friday night show.
Yeah, go back and watch Friday, definitely, because, I mean, hi. I just can't imagine anyone's not heard about, Flying Cruz. Can't imagine anyone missed this one, but yeah. So Heidi is apparently a little angry over the leaked texts. The ones that her neighbors or her neighbors, because where she was sharing this information was like a little neighborhood watch group of what their plans were and what was going on. And these people were too happy to share those with the media.
Yes.
Because they ultimately found it just as like woohoo as the rest of the world did. So basically I can understand why I understand why she's ticked. She thought she had friends. She found out no. Like, you're not part of the Desperate Housewives group. You're part of the group that thinks you're part of the Desperate Housewives group. The actual Desperate Housewives just sold your shit.
And was happy
Gladly.
to. Like, I don't even think they got paid for these text messages. They just sent them. Furthermore, can we just talk about AOC for a moment?
Oh, yes. You know, her ability to fundraise without embezzling?
Well, she fundraised it, I think it's up to $4 million, and said, oh, by the way, I'll be in Texas tomorrow. Let me show you what a representative does.
Yes. Gotta love it.
Yeah.
Gotta love it. I mean, Texas is taking a lot of heat. Well, taking a lot of cold shoulder, technically, but taking a lot of heat right now in general for a lot of what has been going on in Texas.
Right.
For decades.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is kind of the culmination moment.
Right.
Somewhere between $10,000 power bills and bankrupted like veterans who cannot, like, that's it. They've lost everything due to this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to people losing their homes, to people freezing to death, to, I mean, like, the list goes on and on and on.
Right.
All related to the really, what in hindsight, at a time of crisis, it became clear, obvious, and apparent, the decades of horrible management, horrible policies, and absolutely corporate-sided, shilling that went on, that allowed the state to be in a situation that a simple cold snap,
mm-hmm.
a severe one, but a simple cold snap and some unexpected weather, could so horribly decimate.
Right. And then we're seeing more failures of their government.
Mm-hmm.
We have diesel and trucks sitting in El Paso going, where you want us? We have at least 60 mega generators. Now, these aren't generators like the little tiny ones you buy at Walmart. These are the ones designed to run hospitals, to run full communities for a short period of time, i.e. 24, 48, whatever hours. Sitting in Houston going, where do you want us? And the state government is going, we don't know. We have to go check our donors.
Well, and while still trying to claim that it's a transportation issue.
Uh-huh.
Oh, we're just not sure how to get them where they need to be.
They have the United States National Guard. I'm quite sure if they can build a bridge in 12 hours without a lunch break, they can move a damn generator.
Pretty much, yeah. Like, it just, poor Texas, and I mean that in terms of the people who live there, just live there. But poor Texas, it's just, I know it's got to hurt right now to feel like you are literally like becoming Alabama over here. But
well, I think West Virginia should be taking note of what's going on in Texas because you're getting it in West Virginia.
Well, but I do have to point out on the Texas story, I think the biggest striking image for me that I've seen come out of Texas was the differential in Texarkana, in which there is a road that is half in Texas, half in Arkansas. Looks like night and day. Both places got the same weather, had the same issues, or faced the same issues. Arkansas handled it.
Yeah.
Like,
they pulled extra power from the grid. Snap, done.
They had snowplows, even though that's not an area where you typically need those. Like, they had the road cleared on their side. The Texas side, it was literally night and day.
Right.
And like, the image is just so striking of this is the difference.
Right.
Like, this is unprepared. This is what happens when you go, yeah, it's not going to happen often, but we should probably have a plan and a contingency here.
Right. Now, Texans, pay attention. You've been red for many years. You've been mismanaged for many years. Try blue. Try the other color in your state flag.
Just give it a shot. I mean, as a theory.
Yep.
Like, maybe listen, like, accept a little socialism, just a little, not a lot. We're not all of it,
Mm-hmm.
just a little understanding that, yeah, we're all in a society together. We all have to work together, or this is what happens. You end up freezing to death in Texas.
Yeah.
Like,
And
just
then dehydrating to death because your water system is under boil water if it's running at all.
Mm-hmm.
And this also occurred in Kentucky, another Republican state. Pay attention, Kentucky. See what your snapping turtle is doing. He's hiding in his shell.
Mm-hmm. And probably thankful that he wasn't dumb enough to screw up and go to Cancun like Ted Cruz.
Well, that's because he doesn't travel. It's winter. Snapping turtles hibernate.
Oh, it helps.
Uh-huh. All right.
So we have a question. So Rachel, 10982, saw my orthopedic surgeon today, not getting a replacement. They want to do cartilage plugs instead. Just curious if this is going to be successful or just another bump in the road.
While this is the longer road to get where you are, I do think it's successful for a while. Do I think it's a permanent go-to fix? No. Do I think that it'll at least get you back to where you're feeling a little bit decent? Yes.
All right.
Yep.
All right. And Kathy makes the point of, and Rachel does as well. But in Texas, when they were like a few years ago, they were trying to use tractors to clear the interstate after an ice snowstorm. They've been getting worse weather for the last 10 years, and they can afford snowplows. And I have to say, from my experience in North Carolina, like, that's also not a state that really handles snow well. Like, people like this, like, they expect their snow to be like a cute little part of brunch, and like to be outside in t-shirts and shorts, playing frisbee later in the day. Like, that's how North Carolina understands snow. It's a cute thing they occasionally get, and if you go to the more mountainous areas, you might have a snow experience.
Hi, Ashley.
Hi, Ashley.
But no, point blank, but North Carolina wised up a while ago to global warming and said, oh, by the way, we need snow trucks. Yes, the DOT will teach people how to drive them. We are ordering them. They will be in within the year.
We haven't, like, if nothing else, they can just go to Cary.
Uh-huh.
And I'm sure they can find enough people that can drive in snow.
Right.
AKA, for those of you who don't get the joke, Cary, North Carolina. The running joke down there is that Cary stands for Central Area of Relocated Yankees.
Yes.
And it's kind of true.
Yeah. But Texas, we know that you're going through a lot. Please take note of who is helping you, who is not helping you, and get rid of them. Fire. Recall. Sanction. That's the only thing we can do. Yeah. And that's why we need term limits.
Always helpful. And that's probably the bigger part of all of it, is the career politician problem, in which you are literally running. Speaking of Mitch McConnell, what is it, 4 decades now? 5?
5 decades. And each year, Kentucky's poverty level just drops lower.
Yeah. Career politician. He literally votes to get reelected. Like, whatever his vote is not only is totally centered around what he thinks will get him reelected or not.
Mm-hmm.
Point blank, that's his only, like, mindset.
No.
This is not what we want out of our politicians. This is not the idea. We need politicians voting on their conscience. And do you really believe this is in the true best interest?
Right.
You know, and it doesn't mean you have to vote for everything I believe in. Like, there's a lot of policy. And again, just going back to the policy itself, that it's broken. And it's not the best. And it's not the best solution. And I can understand voting against that. What I can't understand is when you're not even, like, you are literally voting to get reelected. Like, you don't even care what the policy is. What's the public opinion on the policy?
Right.
Like, that's it. You're not even invested enough to have a real opinion about the policy itself. That, is this good policy? Is this bad policy? Do we, like, or more so take to heart that obviously this is an issue, and this may be the wrong policy, but what do we have to do to get to right policy? Which Mitch McConnell is a classic example of someone who literally doesn't even try to come in with good policy. It's not like he takes all the issues and concerns that he sees, or any of them. Instead, he focuses on feel-good politics, which is the politics that make voters feel good. You know, so, you know, if the majority of his constituents are against abortion, then he's going to go total pro-life. And he's just going to, anything pro-life, whether it's good policy or bad policy, he's going to vote for it. If it's pro-choice, he's going to vote against it, regardless of what that means for people.
Right. And see, that's one of my problems. My other problem is 4 decades in government, and you're, you know, no, should not happen ever anywhere. There should be a universal term limit in the United States of 4 years. You get to be in government for 4 years in that office. And you have to be from that state, not from Arkansas, who moved into the state and then went and started running for Congress. We've seen this also with the, what is her name? Megan Q-Tip or whoever.
Just call her Q-Rep.
Yeah, we'll just call her
Representative Q. Let's call her Representative Q. That's where I'm at.
Yeah.
So, yeah, well, and technically she's from the state, she's just not from her district. But then you have also as well people that do move, like our state attorney general, like that's a joke, for West Virginia. But then you have like Ted Cruz, who, that's its own nightmare mysteries of, like, you know, but yeah, there's a lot going on there. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Marjorie, yes.
Yeah, I like Representative Q.
Representative.
In her hair, it's as platinum as the day is long. I'm, you know, and if that's real, I call bullshit.
So, yeah.
So, you know, Israel has already moved this into place. Of course, you know, Israel, the small little country that's at war with itself and has been in civil war since the 70s. Has handled COVID like a champ. Went into a month lockdown. As soon as the vaccine came out, they began vaccinating door to door. No discussion. You're getting the shot. Deal with it. If you plan to leave your house, you're getting this. And issued vaccine passports, which they've already had before COVID.
Well, and then you have China as well.
Yeah.
They, despite being the epicenter and despite being, you know, so heavily inundated at the very, very start, but we've seen this in a lot of countries with an authoritarian, you know, regime style government. Is that the people of those countries are, and not trying to turn this into a weird moment, but they're more submissive. Like they know that whatever their government says, they're pretty much going to do, because dissidents really not a good choice. Like it doesn't end well. And it has been an argument in terms of democracy and its severe, glaring, obvious pitfall that when you respect the individual, when you are, when you assign freedoms to individuals that are very far-reaching, that you can, it's not a question of authority and you're putting your screws to people. It ultimately becomes about encouragement and positive messaging and getting people to the point in which they agree with you and will do what you need them to do. And that's been a debate all the way through COVID. How to best, so to speak, game the system.
We've already done that. We made the decision to depart that idea in the early 1900s. We departed that idea when we created this board of health that can control people's behaviors,
which should have done more. And I'm not looking to rehash that. I'm just saying that more regime, dictatorship style governments, at least, ended up having a lot more power and control to pick an approach and implement it and force it, versus countries in which that's not something our people respond to.
Well,
you're not going to force us to do this. So a lot of the problem we've had in the U.S. is finding the right messaging and to get people, encouraged and wanting to do this on their own. So that when the systems, when the vaccination, when everything is there, you have people wanting to do this, and hopefully in a large enough majority.
Well, if you haven't looked at the news, the lines to, and even the vaccine hunters, the lines to the vaccine things wrap around the road, wrap around the highway, wrap out onto the interstate, wrap around block after block. It's not a question of wanting to do it. It's a question of having it to do.
Well, but we still have the question in the U.S. of, do we have enough people wanting to? Because we do need to hit 70-80% wanting in order for herd immunity to help to take over.
Right.
For the other 20 to 30%. Given the last election, in which our country was pretty evenly divided, in terms of, it was less than 60%, but it was still at that, like in the 50s, like on the voting sides. Do we see anything there politically that indicates that we're either going to or going not to hit that level of participation and wanting that will allow us to move forward? Or are we just going to be dealing with COVID forever?
Oh, we won't deal with it forever, because eventually they'll die out. But that what they've instrumented, and the UK is looking at it, Australia is looking at it, and Canada is looking at it, is a vaccine passport. For those that don't know what a vaccine passport is, you commonly have them as children. We were talking about this before the show. They commonly have, I have mine up in the attic that documents all the vaccines, and you have to show it till you go to school, and you have to show it each year that you go to school that you have had your vaccines. They're now doing it now in these larger, more developed countries and some non-developed countries. There's some places that don't have running water in Israel but have a bomb shelter. That to book a hotel, you have to show your vaccine passport. Now, I remember when I was looking at a job of doing a television show in the Ukraine, and I was going to have to present my vaccine report and take additional vaccines.
Mm-hmm.
So this isn't something new. This isn't reinventing the wheel.
I think if anything, this may. What I would hope is that, and perhaps this sounds horrible and Orwellian, what we ultimately have with a public education system, for the majority of people, at least up until charter schools get more synergy behind them, however you want to word that, they start to snowball. For right now, the majority of our students are educated through public education. Because they're part of public education, they're required to be part of that school. You must be vaccinated. This is where we see a lot of self-separation for anti-vaxxers in terms of parents who choose not to vaccinate their children, not people not choosing to vaccinate themselves, but the children who are not being vaccinated getting pulled out of school.
Or even admitted.
Still a small enough group. But then you have the majority that are still getting vaccinated because of school requirements. What unfortunately happens is somewhere between 17 and 19, plus or minus about a year, depending upon how good a student you are or when you were born and how many classes you may have failed, somewhere in there, usually by age 20, you no longer have that enforcement. You have very few employers that are heavily requiring needing you to get vaccinated.
Hannah, I need a birth date, honey. I'm got to have a birth date.
Yes. I think this opens the door for employers to become more involved in continuing vaccination, not just for COVID, but lifelong.
Right.
That if you want to be employed here, like we have healthcare institutions that already do this for nurses, and I get that.
Right.
But, and for other medical professionals as well. But I'm starting to question if, since, as we've been told repeatedly over decades now regarding minimum wage, if you don't like it, get a better education and find another job. Well, if you don't like vaccination, then get another job.
Yeah.
Because work from home.
Yeah.
Self-select you can pull yourself right out of employment too. Be a stay-at-home, whatever you need to do there. To allow you to continue that I'm not going to vaccinate as an adult. I'm not getting a flu shot. I'm not updating my tetanus. I'm not doing these things. And I'm not, because there's sometimes this broken idea that all those vaccinations as kids are one-shot wonders. Some of them are. You'll never need it again. Others, no, actually, you have to get those updated.
Right. Well, and this is a big thing. And this is what people don't get. And this is pre-COVID stuff. Whooping cough, deleted babies. So mama has a baby. Mama brings baby into workplace. John didn't have his whooping cough vaccination when he was 18. His health insurance canceled, whatever.
His mom was an anti-vaxxer. He fell down the rabbit hole. He got stuck because he didn't know what vaccinations he needed, nor the importance of them, because he had an anti-vaxxer parent who pulled him out of public education, and he kind of got lost there.
Right. So John holds the baby like everyone does. Oh, what a beautiful baby. Oh, what a pretty baby. Aren't you just cute? Yada, yada, yada. Baby goes home, gets whooping coughs in the hospital. You could lose the baby. All because John didn't get proper education.
Yeah.
Or adults getting chickenpox because the parent comes to work after caring for the child that has chickenpox.
And someone in that workplace never had it as a kid.
Yep.
Which there is now a vaccination for that, though I think the long term on that is still a little wonky.
The long term not been fully researched yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Though the theory is if we can vaccinate kids and keep those vaccinations updated for chickenpox, that does reduce, if I understand correctly, the likelihood of shingles
right.
as an adult, which is the more serious consequence of chickenpox. In terms of like throughout your life, like as a kid, generally not going to kill you. It's just annoying. As an adult, the problem with shingles is it's very, very debilitating, or can be. So
well, it can be very debilitating. But here's the other thing: chickenpox is deadly for adults.
Yes.
That's why, like, you get adults. You know, if you adults get chickenpox, don't come see me.
What?
I've never had chickenpox.
Bad.
I didn't get chickenpox. I got the measles, mumps, rubella one. I've never had chickenpox.
I didn't have that luck as a child.
Let's take Hannah and Ashley's questions.
Okay, so Hannah, 7/26/94. Will Andrea let me work for her if I ask her?
I feel Angela is very busy. She has a lot of stress, a lot of aggravation. I feel you're looking at where you can go, what you can learn. I feel like this is also feeding your rescuer complex. So yes, she will let you work for her. But expect to have a boss that's like very kind one day and ready to rip you apart the next if you mess up her routine. She is very much, this is Tuesday, we eat bread and cheese on Tuesday, and we do X, Y, and Z.
All righty. And then Ashley, 8/26/96. Am I going through the storm before the calm?
Oh, yeah. In multiple ways. You know, your focus is on home and family. There's also relationships, and you're trying to figure out what to do with those ethical choices. And you got to work out your balance before you get through your storm.
All righty. And I will say, Ashley adds the comment, I've stood on both sides of the vaccine debate. For people who have complete immune systems, I think all vaccines are great. And I will say, I don't think I don't think anyone is an anti-vaxxer if they're dealing with an immunocompromisation.
Right.
Like, that's not anti-vax to me. That's called a legitimate reason not to get vaccinated. However, there are a lot of people that claim other reasons that are not either not clearly or are completely unsupported scientifically,
right?
For not getting vaccinations. That's anti-vax to me.
Right.
Whether it's the total simple, I just don't think vaccines are appropriate, and they'll cause you cancer and give you autism and whatever, all the way to the oh, I have such and such condition that's totally not supported for not getting vaccines, but that's why I choose not to. And it's like, okay, yeah, see what you did there. It's kind of that service animal thing, like the emotional support animal thing. Yeah. It's not that I don't think emotional support animals.
Pigs don't on a plane. Stop proving my dad right.
Well, moreover, it's not that I don't think emotional support animals, like service animals, are necessary and important. It's just when you have a lot of people abusing that to turn a pet into effectively carry on, so just so they can travel with their completely useless pet, then I have a problem.
Right.
Especially considering there are not requirements that pet have any formal abilities or demonstrated ability into and including obedience and behavior.
Right.
So you're effectively putting one step below a wild animal, a slightly domesticated animal, into situations in which they're biting people. They are effectively creating problems for many, many others.
Right. All right, let's take Julie's question because I like this question.
Okay, Julie, 112476. What am I supposed to be working on or focusing on as far as this energy block that I'm feeling lately? I feel that I need to expand in my gifts, but feeling very held back at the same time.
All right, so as I was warming cards up, a whole pile of them dropped out. We'll take them one by one. Julie, I think you've got to work on your spiritual connection with people. I feel like that you've done a lot of work, a lot of lessons looking at these cards, and you're needing a time to reabsorb, calm down, take your summer break as you're learning. We have the Ace of Swords here popping up. So yes, you have new gifts, new tools popping up, but they're still, they're brand new. They're still dull. You still ain't got them there yet, and that's okay. But as you're going through training, you're going to have to take a break, because followed by that, we have the Hangman, which is you self-sacrificing yourself, pushing your energy farther and more and doing more before you're ready for it, and then it has physical effects on you, namely your digestive and your back. And then we have the Knight of Wands, because you always have this joy of wanting to be the right one, the one leading the charge, leading into things. So I would let that energy block be there for a while. Take it as the universe going, no. Yes, we know you've done AP Psychic, you've done AP Tarot, you're a master at numerology, you've got the mediumship gift down, you hear us clearly. But you still aren't resting. You still aren't drinking your water. You still aren't focusing on you. So you got to do that before we take you into the next grade.
All right. So just to recap, I heard a lot of walk before you run, and put your mask on before you help others with their mask.
Well, not only that, but a lot of, and this happens with psychics, is we get into this, what I call awakening phase. Mm-hmm. And we go from one to another, to another, to another, and we learn all these tools. And of course, that is expanding our chakras, expanding our energy, expanding our means, and doing all this expansion of us. But we forget that we're the physical body, and we have to adapt to that expansion. It's kind of like when I do a mediumship reading. Mm-hmm. They are still taxing to me and still tiring to my physical body. But the psychic high off of that is amazing. But the physical body goes, oh, God, you just lifted 500 pounds. What were you thinking? Mm-hmm. That's what I think is going on here with Julie, too.
Yeah, that's also part of what I was hearing, was it's sort of like the like teenager who thinks they're going to be able to go from wimpy to jacked in like a week of working out. So they go hit the gym like, gangbusters, and then wonder why they pull muscles. It's like, no. Slow down. You're not going to make that kind of gain all of a sudden. You've got to measure your success and have a plan.
Right.
And get there.
And get used to it. Because you have a lot of gifts, Julie. You're going to have to learn to enjoy them and get used to them as you start growing. So this energy block, or this, like, why can't I do this? Is just the universe slowing you down and letting your body process it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Okay, I got to read her comment back. You are reading me like a book. Thank you. I'm completely resonating with this. I do need to remember to take time to recharge my physical self. And yes, there is a high when you help others.
Yes.
All righty.
All right. So I'm for the vaccine passport, but I think it needs to be expanded to all vaccines.
Yeah, I'm there. I think that is something that is most definitely needed. Mm-hmm. And I think we also need to get employers behind it. Mm-hmm. And I think it needs to become standard workplace. It just needs to be a thing.
Right. I mean, because nurses can lose their nurse's license for not getting the flu shot. Mm-hmm. That's cute, but you got H1N1 because your employer forced you to work in a building that was like crashing flies. We're still trying to figure out the effects of H1N1 on the human body.
Right. Well, and the biggest problem there was this was a workplace that was generally non-responsive to like personal days, calling in sick. Like they were very, very, very against the idea that, we give you paid time off, but we don't ever expect you to use it.
Right.
We, co-opt your health insurance, but we don't expect you to use it. Like that was their mentality. So we got used to, if you're sick, if you're whatever, you're going to be here.
Right.
Like unless you've been hospitalized, and even then you're going to get some flack. And potentially, as I did, having emergency surgery, get a lot of flack for the fact I wasn't going to be there on Monday morning. We got used to this environment. And then as H1N1 hit, we just all kept going to work. Because no matter how bad we felt, none of us could afford to lose our job. Like only a few people that could legitimately afford to lose their job took on management with that originally. And we're like, no, my ass ain't coming in. The only thing that helped us was H1N1, and the reporting on it was so very good that it actually scared one of the executives who was like, nope. For once, you're sick. If you feel sick, if you're slightly sick, if you think you might be sick, don't come in.
Right.
We will work it out.
Right.
But again, all of us were, like, so to speak, brainwashed, myself included. I felt horrible the Monday I went in. Like, me before working there would have been like, hi, I'm sick. I'm not coming in today. If this persists, I'll go to the doctor tomorrow. Which is ultimately what happened. Instead, I worked in a good chunk of that day before I got sent out and told you can't come back until you have a doctor's note. That says you can. And sure enough, went to the doctor, and it had already been spread around the office, and we knew that. And it came back H1N1, and I'm going, crap. And then I still managed to work all but 8 of 40 hours that week from home. Like that was the other thing of that environment. Is also getting I think that's a really important argument to make, is that we need more employee protections for our health.
Right. And we know if you're stripping them away, like our local government is trying to do.
Well, because my point being, have you ever tried to work with a temperature of 104 while you're about to pass out?
I refuse to answer that question on grounds that may incriminate myself on legal standings or graces.
Well, still though. Like, I have. From home. 104 degree temperature, I could barely function. It was all I could do to sit in a chair upright without passing out. Like, that's how bad I felt.
Right.
And I still was sitting there having to work, and I'm going, that's when it hit me how ridiculous and screwed up this situation was, is I'm sick. I have H1N1. I'm trying to get better, and I can understand and appreciate that the world continues to turn while I'm sick, and that there may be questions and things you need to help with to cover while I'm sick. That doesn't mean you forego that responsibility and continue to make it mine. Like, we need some help there. Hi, Valerie.
Yeah. But no, I refuse to answer that because, coming out of the nursing field, you put a mask on, wear gloves, take some Tylenol. You have patience, and if you get sick middle shift, you're stuck until your relief comes, because that's what we hold our nurses to.
Right. Well, and at least in nursing, you have those precautions available to you. I will say one of my wildest moments in that job was the coworker who had pink eye. Sat there, told us he had pink eye, and then opens this giant can of mixed nuts, puts his hand in it, and then goes, "Anyone want any?"
Uh-huh.
And I'm just sitting there going, "What did you just say?"
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, what's your problem? And I'm like, "You have pink eye. No one wants your food that you just touched. Like, no, stop. No one wants to do that. You are potentially spreading this." And literally, I said this and looked over the cube wall at this, like, to be like, "Are you stupid?" And there's like 2 employees reaching and have frozen midair for this can of nuts, going, "Never mind." And I'm like, "Oh my God, we just about had a outbreak of pink eye in this office."
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, why are you here? That was my next question, is why are you here?
Yeah. All right, guys. So we're going to touch this story. The story's still developing. But again, we're going back to poor Texas. I want to know who forgot to pay the preacher or piss the witch off in Texas. Here's why. Texas train crash. Carrying flames across the collisions. A fuel train literally was crashed into.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Texas just really hasn't had a good month.
Right.
Like, it sucks to be in Texas. Like, we understand that right now. We'll gladly support anyone who's like, Texas sucks right now.
Right.
Especially if you live there.
Right.
Or have. But oh wow. So how did this happen?
So apparently a train crashed into an 18-wheeler.
Ow.
Yeah, it hit an 18-wheeler flatbed vehicle. And there's no indications that it had been transporting anything at the time of the crash. So apparently the 18-wheeler was parked. Sorry, I was reading a German article and translating.
Okay.
It had been parked on a flat crossing, waiting to go through a stoplight. There's a train coming.
Ooh. I hate. Can I just point out? I really, because depending upon like where in Texas this could have been multiple simultaneous lines. Because I know a lot of other states, and West Virginia is notorious for it. We try to make it next to impossible to get a vehicle stuck between crossings.
Right.
Like the drop downs.
Right.
Granted, we still have some light-based train stops, which can also create issues. Generally, it's also considered poor road planning to put a stoplight and a train track together.
Right.
But again, North Carolina, there's one in Greensboro that's sort of like that. The train track runs right through the middle of the intersection. And if you're not paying attention to traffic, you can get stuck there because it is a very large intersection. You could fit an entire 18-wheeler in that intersection. And yeah, usually, thankfully, it's a slow-moving train in terms of accident and damages. It's horrible for drivers because if you get caught at that intersection, you are screwed for at least 20 minutes.
Right.
As the slowest little train.
Yeah. But this train was carrying petrol, i.e. crude oil, and coal.
Ooh.
Together.
Yay. Well, but we see that we see that a lot. Like fossil fuels tend to travel together. So you'll have your oil cars and your...
Yeah, and 3 cars. So we got coal and oil at least on fire there. Both of these are fire creation tools. If you do not understand that factor, they burn very long.
Yes. Yeah.
Hi, Johnny Gal. Can you get Hannah's birth date for me again?
Yes, I just did 7/26/94 for Hannah. And the question is, What does Rod Raspy think of me?
Okay.
Well, Johnny, that is Aeson, currently reading cards, and I am Joe, aka Techy Joe.
Yep. All right. So they think that you travel a lot. You've got a lot of things going on. They also think that you're going through some new beginnings, which they like. And with the sun card showing here, I would say that they're looking at an interest towards you. I can't clarify which way that interest is, but it is very much about showing a lot of focus there. All right, guys, so we're going to be wrapping up here real soon, but I had to think of that to bring that up to kind of wrap in. And it's kind of interesting how all the stories tonight just kind of tied around each other like a big knot.
Absolutely. And nice to meet you too, Johnny. We have a baby update.
Okay, give us a baby update.
Baby update is Ashley's baby. Doing great. He's 2 months now and almost 13 pounds. He's so sweet and starting to smile and roll. Yay! Healthy baby. Healthy baby.
Yes, we look forward to pictures of baby walking, running, and then killing things.
What? Like, she's already sitting here stressed out enough with the storm before her calm, and you want to throw that out there? And she's raising a little baby Jason. Like,
well,
what are you trying to do to her?
Babies do this. They walk, they run, and then they start killing flies and stuff.
I missed that one in the baby development cycle.
Yeah, I've raised mostly boys. I've seen that happen.
Wow. I at least made it to 8, and then there was a magnifying glass and ant incident. That's a long story. Not really a long story. It's a common story. Everyone knows the story. Pardon?
3-year-old running through the house with a poor lizard.
Oh no! Oh no! Oh. But yeah. All right.
We will see you Friday night with Mountain Bears. We do have one story about how stupid the West Virginia state legislature is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking for some more debate on an article about religion and government and how it's becoming grossly influenced. And who knows what else. Members, be watching for a post because I think we're going to do a private stream Thursday.
Yes.
Yeah, or Friday.
Absolutely. And so, yeah, let's go ahead and thank our baristas because we always appreciate our lovely Patreon supporters. They are amazing. And so thank you, Beverly Walker, Mika G, Kathy, Mary Winfield, Brenda Bryant, and Ashley Guest. If you'd like to learn more about the show or about us, please visit PCSP Network, where you can also find out more information on becoming one of our Patreon sponsors and getting the lovely title of barista and all the wonderful benefits that come with that.
Yes, we will be updating our Patreon here soon because there's a few benefits that's pulled together. Yes, please follow, like, subscribe, share out. We are here every Tuesday and Friday. And then, of course, you get live readings on our Facebook or on Facebook and on Instagram, 3-Card Daily Tools, and YouTube. So be sure to tune into those. I want to welcome all my new YouTube followers. We are very happy to have you here. So please like, share, subscribe, and always comment. And go check out PCSP Network for more things.
Yes, and don't forget to plug TikTok. You're rocking over there.
Yeah, TikTok's over there. I'm just sure not how Discovery Mode works over there.
Oh, there you go. Well, for TikTok at least, you get to see him both professionally for daily readings, and you get to see him and his more comedic self.
Yes,
and fun things going around TikTok that he's like, "Ooh, I'm doing that."
Yeah,
it's cool.
Which, this kind of leads into a conversation. There's a TikTok trend right now going on, and it's one of the creators I'm thinking about duetting it because there's no way I can do the dance. But it really sounds like someone listened to one of my old arguments with my first husband.
Well, that should be interesting.
Yeah.
Was this one of the arguments in court?
This is one of the first arguments when I told him if I wanted a companion, I'd get a dog.
Fair. 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 That's almost as bad as a comment I heard. And I'm sorry, I just got to tell this real quick because you said that and it popped it right in my head, and I think our listeners will enjoy. So, once upon a time, a few years back, working as a volunteer, there's a cancer patient that comes in for chemo, and him and his wife are having this argument because for anyone who's never worked with like cancer patients, I will say from volunteering at the hospital, you immediately see people that are going to make it and do great and survive cancer, and like their attitude is there. They're like, we're going to dance with this, we're going to beat this shit and, knock it back to the Stone Ages. And then sometimes you see people that they got the worst news possible and they just straight towards the death outcome. That's where they locked in at. That's all they're dealing with. He made a comment about getting her a dog, and she's like, honey, I don't care about the fucking dog. I'm not into bestiality. I prefer to keep you. And I about died. I'm just like, and alternative, like separate story part, I knew this couple previously from this situation in a totally different context, and I was like, oh my god, that's just TMI, but it was like, I love your sense of humor to the wife. I could see myself saying this, but the saddest part was also the fact he just didn't even react. Like, he's so locked into that moment of like, this is going to kill me. This is how I die. But just the comment though was like, oh my God, she said this in public loudly. I was just like, wow, this is why I've always liked you. Right there.
All right, guys. You guys have a great night. I'm Aeson Knight on everything except Twitter, and I'm Aeson K. So follow me, all that, including TikTok if you can figure out how to find people, because I don't do For You posts. That's just not me. All right. Good night, y'all.
Good night.